we are back, and it is episode number 24 here. We are back once again as Tuesday, as talking Trackmania time, and I'm joined once again by LuckersTurbo. It's a pleasure once again to be joined by you. And the countdown for Christmas we're at now. I mean, I looked at the calendar like literally just now and realised that it is 10 days to Christmas. But, I mean...
10. I mean, 25th is
10.
Christmas, yeah.
Well, yeah, I suppose you could say probably 9.5 or something like that. But instead of debating how many days there is left to Christmas, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Just a little bit stressed with study, and then also I was involved into a lot of casts this weekend. And tomorrow will be the Trackmania Awards, which I'm looking forward to because I will also contribute to that. So this will be super cool. Also planned a video idea for tomorrow. So that's why my last couple of days were a little bit stressy. But hey, I'm good. And actually did Cup of the Day, which is Cut of the Day again. And before that I was studying and eating some M&Ms, fitting to my Trackmania Grand League team, right? But yeah, how are you doing, man?
That works. I'm doing well, man. I mean, it sounds like you've been going 1,000 miles an hour compared to me, but yeah, I can't complain. I've been playing a lot of Cyberpunk since it came out. I've had a good time. Working a little bit, been out to see some people now. Our lockdowns finally came to a close, or kinda came to a close. I'm not even really sure how it works, to be honest. But yeah, the Christmas tree's up. The Christmas spirit's getting there. I've nearly got all of my presents in, and now we need to wrap them and stuff, which I'm significantly less enthusiastic about. But today's episode, I feel only fitting that we talk about the awards ceremonies that are going to be happening around about this time of year. Of course, we have Trackmania Awards, which is coming back for its 4th year, if I remember correctly. Yes, fourth year this time around. And also, we have a separate award show being ran by Eric Holdal, who previously hosted the Trackmania Awards through either his own effort or through Huntmania in 2017, 18, and 19, and is now hosting his own awards as he's no longer part of the Trackmania Awards, which is now run by TM News. But you said you're a little bit more involved this time around. Give us a little insight as to what you've kind of been doing, what your role has been in this year's award.
Should I be honest, or what should I do?
It's our podcast. It's not just mine.
So I was involved in 4 categories this time around because I really felt that I want to contribute to something. Because, I mean, just looking back to it, I won't reveal in what kind of jury I am, because this would be a little bit weird to do that. But I mean, I got a lot of news when it comes to Trackmania. Also, thanks to the podcast that we're also recapping, I get to know the point of views that I didn't know. Let's say you are an expert what comes to tech. Let's say the ALM Cup that I didn't get wind from or anything like that. So I'm involved a lot and I actually had fun. But one downside here is that we had not a lot of juries here and that I had to do. I did 13 texts yesterday, which was a bit tedious. I still have fun with that, but the engagement or the commitment, let's say like that, from the community wasn't really there, which I was expecting a bit, but yeah, I expected a bit more, let's say it like that. But we had some people who really helped me out in a lot of categories, but in some categories I really have been left alone. Just gonna name it here. I'm not gonna calling someone out because it definitely is something that I would do as well when I would have been in my study and had what had to travel to university or stuff like that, and I just didn't have the time because people certainly didn't know that they have to do a text, so I did it, and so it is good, but on the other hand, maybe a little bit more engagement could be cool next time. But hey, you're not in the Trackmania Awards this time around. Are you in any jury, or how is your involvement in that?
I don't really know, to be honest. Let's put it this way. So I've been involved in some way in every Trackmania Awards bar the first one, which Eric done with himself and Shumi, it was, if I remember correctly. However, I began to grow a little bit more frustrated with how the awards system was structured, because it normally resulted in by its nature, it's a popularity contest. It wasn't, some awards, of course, when you had people of a kind of equal exposure base, were going more typically to people who deserved it. But you had some awards that would have big name values attached to them, or if they were, specifically late in the year, November or December, and it was fresh in everyone's memory. You were really having just people voting with a tide, so to speak, and kind of just grabbing the first name that comes to their mind. So it really frustrated me when I saw awards going to people that I didn't feel deserved them as much, or didn't deserve to win by as much of a margin.
Mm-hmm.
Or on the other hand, you had people who didn't even get mentioned in the public or the private talks, who didn't get nominated whatsoever. So I began to grow very, very frustrated with it. So this year, I don't know. I mean, they've still kept me in the staff role, so I still kind of like see everything, and I'm just really using that at the moment to like, when I see little, like I'm trying to, not trying to, but I'm kind of being a bit of the whip, so to speak, and the Trackmania Awards talks at the moment. So if I see people, talking out of their ass or something like that, or seeing some arguments coming up, or seeing people like, some points I'll get to later, then I just give them a little bit of the whip, like,
Yeah.
let's take this seriously. Everyone doing getting some work in and stuff like that. So I think I may be involved in some capacity when it comes to the presentation of the awards, but otherwise, outside of that, that's pretty much it. So a far cry from what it was I was doing previously. Let's just say that.
Yeah, but I mean, a down step is good. And I mean, I really covered a lot. I would say I was contributing a lot to the awards. Maybe you've seen it in the different categories that I really put in a lot of texts and also a lot of thinking into that. Because I feel a bit like responsible when I'm in this role. And I would have felt bad when nothing would be produced. I don't know if people would have done it if I didn't do it yesterday, I don't know, but
Yeah.
I hope so. But yeah, I mean, it was a lot of fun also to like recap everything to see, okay, let's say this and this happened, and maybe this is better instead of that, and stuff like that, and really discuss about that. That's what I had yesterday with one of the juries as well. This was really cool that we just discuss and recap about stuff that we eventually put or didn't put into the awards. So that is cool to see. But yeah, I definitely agree with your point of yeah, this is a kind of a popularity award, and also that it's very biased. I mean, I don't want to get, or like don't get anyone wrong there, but our perception from Trackmania is a different one than just from the one that, let's say, a casual player has that just joined in 2 or 3 months ago and has a valid vote as well. Because let's just take the prime example, Streamer of the Year, because this is probably the most prestigious title. If this guy only watched, let's say, let's just say, I don't know, Riolo or Virtual or someone like that, and he disregarded the first half of the year, he cannot really make himself a point of view about other categories as well. So it is getting hard to really, categorize that or give this one some sort of value. That's why the jury has come, with a different system, with a 25% from the jury and then 25% from the outside jury and 50% from the actual votes. But I mean, almost everyone can join the jury, so it is a bit of, everyone who is like a little bit involved in the scene can get into the jury. So I don't know what to think about that. Actually, it's weird. Let's say it like that.
Yeah. I mean, one of the main things about the Trackmania Awards, which has always kind of frustrated me to an extent, is it's always the time of year where you'll see people who'll complain about, why is this person not included? Why is that person not included? But when it comes down to the time where you can actually apply to be part of the jury, it's always a very limited amount of people who do actually apply. It's always a very small demographic, so to speak. You normally have the same kind of people applying each year. And normally, for some niche categories, shall we say, like, as it before was Canyon Player of the Year, or in this case, Mania Planet Player of the Year, or whichever it is for at least the Trackmania Awards, you do typically have the same group of people doing it. And other than that, you don't necessarily have people who specialize in any sort of category. Like, for example, for Streamer of the Year, ideally you would be having a lot of streamers as part of that jury. For Community People of the Year, you will ideally have a lot of people who are prominent members of the community being part of the jury, being a very well educated jury. Now, not in any sense to say that the juries that we have are not well educated, or that some of them aren't specialized. Some of them definitely are. You have the likes of Shumi and Shorts involved in their respective categories and such. But
Mm-hmm.
the problem is outside of the people who are kind of filling their kind of respective categories, like Shumi and Skin and things like that. It's very spread thin between the rest of the people. I'd experienced that through the last few awards, where I done what would it be, something like 15 different jury positions or something like that, and you had multiple other people who would do you know who would do many of them. The year before that, I'd done pretty much all of them. It's the case that you don't have that many other people who are invested in the awards to a point where they'll complain about the results, or they'll complain about the nominees, but they won't take any involvement in actually
True.
helping pick the nominees, helping do the research to get the right nominees, things like that. It's always been a frustrating point about the awards, but uh, hopefully, at the very least, it seems to be this one's running a little bit on a tighter schedule, so to speak. But I've still seen some awards that I definitely find a little bit confusing or questionable. But that's just the nature of me looking at this as a person who normally does a lot of looking into things. I'm thinking, why is this person overlooked? Why is that person overlooked? But
True.
I can only imagine everyone's thinking that. Everyone has their own opinion, but yeah, it's always a very divisive time of the year. I think is something very safe to say about award season.
Yeah, I mean, you name an important point there. The involvement of a person who really is like an expert in his category. I mean, maybe you guys can guess in what jury I am then, because I'm not gonna be in the jury of Skinner of the Year, because I have no clue about art or about skins or whatever. So, of course, I'm not taking this category. But on the other hand, I mean, me joining the Caster of the Year jury would be a bit selfish, I would say.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why I didn't do it. I mean, why should I could join the jury, but then I would only defend myself and do the arguments, and this would also lead to other things. So I just joined juries where I know that I won't be a nominee in, which was important for me, but also things where I really know, okay, I have a clue about that. I know what to talk about because I've covered almost every event in Trackmania. But also that Shumi, I mean, I think it's a different point here, because Shumi can really like argue with people about that, because he is just, yeah, like he's experienced or known when it comes to making skins, and he can tell you, yeah, this is good, this is bad, or stuff like that. So this makes sense because no one has this idea. I can just tell you, yo, this skin looks good, this skin looks bad, but the rest I cannot tell you. But yeah, maybe we should go through the categories and maybe name some people in there. I mean, I already know the nominees for tomorrow. You have the sheet probably as well. But of course,
Yeah.
we are not going to talk about that. We just taking our picks there and maybe gonna go into that because, yeah, I mean, I would definitely have a different pick here for community person, but
Yeah.
of course not gonna name anyone here, but I would just have a different one. You're gonna see that tomorrow, but maybe you're gonna go into that, maybe your top 3, top 4, whatever.
For sure. But I mean, just to give you guys an idea of the awards, also something we're talking a little bit about is the fact that there's 2 award shows, of course, this time
True,
around.
yeah.
But the Trackmania Awards, which is the one we're talking about with all these kind of juries and things like that, will have community person, caster, streamer, movie maker, skinner, skin, content creator, standout player, pro player, amateur player, mania planet player, match, map, mapper, team, and event. And in Eric Holdal's awards ceremony, he will attempt to crown player, story, streamer, moment, match, caster, most improved player, event, and performance of the year, and that's quite a widespread there. Quite a lot of different people hopefully will be receiving awards. Quite a lot of different parts of Trackmania will be kind of touched by the awards, which is something that I always really liked about it. I mean, we are missing some categories, which I always liked in times before, like most improved player, where you really kind of shone a light in some of the people who maybe aren't at the top yet, but are really kind of rising up there. But I mean, personally, I think it's very well rounded. I'm very much looking forward to seeing the results in a sense. Albeit some of them I do think are going to be kind of foreboding. Like you'll see the nominees and you'll kind of know who's going
Yeah,
to win, so to
true.
speak. But I suppose again that's just the nature of these sort of events and things like that. But yeah, so that's all the categories that are going to be part of this. I mean, while we talk about the two, well, before we talk about the two different awards, such like that, is there any sort of categories that really kind of caught your eye, or any that you thought were maybe missing from that?
I mean, just for the official award show, I think that moment and story are so good awards. Really, they really emphasize. Let's just name the story. I would have a story in mind. Just gonna take one, but just the evolution of Granadi throughout the year. You can really make a cool story out of that, and this could really hook people, and also like the development of the Trackmania scene or something like that. Or also Moment. I think Moment we had. This is such an important award for me, kind of. But that's
Mm-hmm.
just my opinion. And yeah, I mean, awards that are missing is kind of, let's say, not something very official. Maybe like meme of the year or upset or something like that. Also something negative that we not only crown the positive thing, but also the negative facts. You know?
Yeah, I suppose that's one way to look at it. I mean, personally, the way I look at it is that you do have some awards, or at least you did have some awards like Story of the Year or Moment of the Year, which did lead to some awards being having negative
Yeah,
parts to
true.
them. It wasn't necessarily that all of these awards were, sunshine and roses, as they say, I suppose. But yeah, I mean, for me, the award that was most missing from the official, Trackmania Award ceremony was Most Improved Player of the Year. That will be at least an Eric Holdall's award. But yeah, I'd agree with you in the sense there that story and moment and so on. But the problem we always had with Moment of the Year is it's just that it's a moment. There's thousands of moments which are
True.
happening in Trackmania, which some people might think is more deserving than others, and it's believe me, it is an absolute nightmare to sift through. I mean, it's comparable to the likes of Match of the Year, where except Match of the Year, I think you can more universally agree on what would make a great match, but what would make a great moment in Trackmania is always
Very
something that's
biased.
quite very very biased in a kind of personal basis, and also very hard to kind of narrow it down. I mean, it's one of the words that's going to be easiest to miss one out on, just because there's so many other candidates. I mean, it might just be that you're sitting one day as a member of the jury thinking that you're going to plough through all the moment of the years. You get to maybe 30 out of 50 of them, then you just can't be bothered anymore. But it might be the next 20 that will really hook you. It's just one of those awards which takes a lot of work, and one of the awards which normally was quite drained people. I mean, you had people when it came to the jury, they'd be really excited doing all the discussions and stuff like that. But when it comes to sifting through like 200 Twitch clips, I guarantee you're not going to have the same kind of enthusiasm after that.
Yeah, it's. I mean, it's very biased to a personal base. I was discussing yesterday with one of the jury members when we did something for one of the categories. I mean, I also we were going through some sort of like Twitch thingies. Not gonna spoil it too much. I mean, it's a little bit narrow now, but not too narrow that you know which category I'm talking about. But he was just talking about that. Ah, yeah, this and this happened then, and it was like so biased because he thought this was good, you know. But I was like, okay, this is like just another moment. But for him, it was the stuff that he was really exciting about that because he had a really personal connection to that. So it is getting really hard, and I think that having two award shows now is kind of cool. But of
Hmm.
course, the one by Eric won't consider everything. That he has already said because he's not an expert in this stuff, of course, which I find good. But also in those categories, let's take streamer of the year. He cannot, yeah, like rate the French streamers, for example. He can only go
Hmm.
into the English streams because he's not able to speak French that good. Of course, he knows that people were active. Yannick's with his Sportix Cup and stuff like that. Then we also have C-Remix, of course, Gwen, also Cole. And, you cannot consider them too much, because he cannot make a picture of them. But, yeah, I mean, that's for the kind of different TM awards here. I really find it cool that there are two, but yeah, of course, Eric's will be a little bit more biased than the other ones because in the other ones we have more juries and more members who are contributing to that.
Yeah, I suppose. I mean, I like the fact that there's two different award shows this year. I like the fact that it does kind of bridge the gap between one of them is basically a votes orientated one in the Trackmania Awards, and one of them is just simply one man coming out and saying, "This is who I think deserve these awards of the year." And I think both of them are very important in the sense of who they reward for their actions. Of course, as it's going to be essentially there is going to be differences. There is going to be differences between what Eric thinks compared to what everyone else thinks. I mean, Eric's already told me about some of the awards he doesn't agree with compared to, you know, what the Trackmania Awards guys are picking. It's just one of those things. I'm looking through these and on subjects I'm very well educated about, and I'm already thinking of things I don't agree with, so to speak.
Same.
But it's something which, because going into an award ceremony, what kind of approach would you like to see going forward? Would you like to see it that you do have an individual like Eric hosting an award show, and it is just simply his opinion, so to speak, albeit that it will be with his own personal bias, but also Eric is someone who is going to back up what he's saying with some form of fact. He is the Trackmania journalist, so to speak. He is the kind of person who's always posting these stats everywhere and things like that. So he's a man who certainly does his work when he's wanting to put something out there. So I can only imagine this time's going to be the same. So uh, I think it's going to be a breath of fresh air. But are you kind of already tainting it a little bit with the bias, or does your feeling in general say something different about it?
I mean, when I picked my the picks for my category, I was of course biased, and you guys will probably also not agree 100% to them, which is normal, of course. But I tried my best to keep it as objective as possible because you really have to define a category at first. You need to define what it brings caster of the year with him, streamer of the year with him, like all those categories. You need to define that, and this is hard to do. And everyone has,
Especially for some, yeah.
yeah, also like let's just take, I think the hardest one to really do right now is match of the year, because how you clarify a match of the year, like how you do that. I was thinking about that, but I couldn't really find a way because there are so many different approaches, but we're gonna see who's nominated there. But also map, what do you think, what is a good map? Have you played every map? Have you seen every match? This is hard to deal with. So you kind of need experts for a category, which is of course lacking a lot because people won't have that time, because those awards are not that. I mean, it's just a title that one of us will get in that. So it's the honor you get. Okay, you're the best in that, but I don't know. It's hard to really nail that down. And yeah, of course they won't be fair getting that. What was the question exactly again?
I don't remember. But just to kind of jump on to a point you were saying there, something which I do like about the Trackmania Awards in general is that you do have different people coming in with different point of views. So hopefully you're normally going to have more kind of point of views being considered, and as such you're going to be at less risk of some people being overlooked and some people being ignored. But I think what this awards, I think the awards community in Trackmania has been very much has very much had its own problems in terms of having some people in some cases overlook.
Yeah.
Now, to give you guys an example, this is a little story which me and Turbo spoke a lot about this time last year. I mean, he'll know what I'm going to talk about, but it's last year's Trackmania Awards section for Caster of the Year. Now, to give you guys a little bit of a preview for this, at this kind of time of year, I don't remember exactly who all of the other recipients of the nominees were, but publicly there were a very, very small amount of names being mentioned. It was the likes of Velo being mentioned. I think Necrua again had been mentioned a lot. And then it was looking at people like Marius89, it was looking at people like Cousin, and so on. Now, of course, your main people being mentioned were Necrua and Riolu. I think Winglebear was also one of them. Now, you had two what I felt were very important names, and not just for a singular reason, who went almost completely unmentioned publicly. Now, one of them did end up getting nominated, which was myself, and one of them did not end up nominated, which is my lovely cohort here, Mr. Turbo. Now, to tell you guys why I think this is an important story. So, this was something that I was so frustrated about, I did eventually actually end up telling Turbo about it. So last year, similar to this year, he'd put in an extraordinary amount of work in casting. You know, casting events week in, week out. Normally smaller scale events, or shit cups, as we've affectionately called them. But it was to an extent where if I remember correctly, out with the, I don't think Trackmania Grand League was as very well established by that point, but at that point, it was normally smaller scale work that Turbo was doing. However, it was very good quality and it was very numerous, and it wasn't just one tournament every now and then. However, he did not get mentioned by anyone publicly. He did not get mentioned by anyone privately in the private juries. Now that very much frustrated me because you can load a jury with as many people as you want, but when you have awards like that clearly ignoring who should be a contender for a nomination, I'm not here to say Turbo should have won the award. I'm not here to say he should have been nominated for the award, but he should have been considered. I ended up getting nominated for the award, and the only point my name was brought up, it didn't get brought up publicly and then by anyone, and it got brought up privately 6 hours before the nominees closed. That was the only point of which people remembered directly. And it's the same kind of sense going into some of these awards, that I feel that we do have juries out there, but we don't have enough people in the jury. Now, I know I've just says, you can pack so many people in a jury you want and you'll still get people overlooked. But the problem is you're having some people who are spanned across like 10 juries, These people are not going to be able to put in the research for 10 different awards to be able to pick up everyone that should be considered, especially for some awards which have a lot of potential nominees, like Match of the Year is exactly what you're saying. So what I would kind of, I'm not just saying this for nothing. This isn't Scotty's rant hour for now. But what I would like to say this as, for anyone who's watching, who's thinking, about the award shows, thinking, they might not see who they want in nominees and things like that. Apply to be part of these awards teams. Be part of the solution. Don't be part of the problem. Don't be these kind of people who are sitting complaining at January's time. This guy didn't get picked. That guy didn't get picked. These award shows do need help. It's no secret. You'll see that, and you have seen that. Sorry, time's gone past. It takes time to go through these sort of processes, but it can be made easier when people aren't just slamming a random name into suggestions without any sort of explanation. I mean, God forbid, something I was thinking of ranting about, but just to kind of shorten it down, we had the content creator. Well, say we. I'm not strictly part of it now, but there is content creator of the year in the Trackmania Awards now. Now, content creator of the year is for the likes of people who are bringing new functionality, new systems to the game. People who are doing a lot of back end work which don't typically get noticed. Like, last year I believe it was Erwin Weber got, and also hope Erwin gets better soon. He is not with us
Yeah.
tonight, hence why there is a bit of a different take on things today, I suppose. Definitely, hope you feel better soon, Erwin. But yeah, well, I get sidetracked. People like Erwin who done a lot of work on the SAC with the likes of the matchmaking and so on. Back then, you also had Miss for a lot of the open planet work. So that's what we're talking about. A lot of structural work, a lot of behind the scenes work. Yet, I would wager on saying 75% of the people who posted in Content Creator of the Year posted virtual, despite numerous people, well, I'd say myself posting it numerous times, saying this is not the award for Content Creator of the Year because they have a good YouTube. But you still have 100 people putting his name there because they're not reading what it's about and they're not reading anything in the channel. Some things of the awards are frustrating. I think we can say that
Yeah.
pretty fairly.
Yeah, it's hard to really get a definition of that. And content creator means in this case like being behind the scenes, making things possible, to just like be the one who's just let's say they are creating stuff for the game and not creating about the game, if this makes any sense.
Yeah,
I think that's a good definition about it, that they are part of it and that they're not like influencers, they are influencing the game and not people.
Yeah.
I think this makes the most amount of sense, but it's hard to get. But I mean, to just come back to that topic with caster of the year last year, of course I was a bit about that, but I don't really care that much about the awards. I just wanted to be mentioned somewhere because I definitely casted, let's say, 10, 15 competitions this year, and then people are thinking, don't want to be offensive here or something like that, but Nekura has casted this and this amount of competitions, 47 different competitions in 2 years. I have covered almost as many as him. I've covered 37 competitions this year. I mean, just telling you that. I mean, almost every weekend I covered a competition. So my name got mentioned, fortunately, but it is so biased, and only people see this like, they only see, let's say, Trackmania, Grand League, or Twitch Rivals. We have Virtual there. We have Geek there. Geek, of course, a nominee that is 100% valid. But let me ask, what else should we do for caster of the year? Should it be the influence of one person having the most amount of viewers, or just the commitment about the game to cover everything in a high quality, even if you don't get as many followers as you get when you cover Twitch Rivals or something like that? Because this is probably a good point here, because when I didn't cover those competitions in English, no one else would have done it.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, right, this was something that was quite a topic for the award shows, and was one of the main reasons why I stepped back from being so active in it. And it was what I was saying earlier, how I felt that it wasn't always the people who deserved the awards were getting the awards. Not even just that, you would have people getting absolutely blown away in the awards despite being, on a very even par, or, being superior to some of the people that were being beaten by. And I thought that that was the problem when you had an award show, which the awards were decided by the people. Now, we do have plenty of level-headed people out there in the community. However, we also have a very kind of strange ecosystem in Trackmania. Now, what I mean by that is, we have an ecosystem in Trackmania. I don't think ecosystem's the right word, but just to kind of bear with me, we have a very small amount of massive influences in the community. So you have your major people, mostly around the likes of the old expert squad. So you have Spam, Carl Jr., Massa. There's three straight off the
Riolu as
bat.
well.
Really, of course, of the old expert group, so to speak. And then you have Virtual now, who's rising up to the top. And there's some others who are in a little bit of a cusp there. People like, say, I don't know, Bren, a bit more infrequent, but he still is quite a great influence. Let me think. Simply Nick, Mudder, who started streaming a little bit more now. But these kind of people have quite a large influence on the community in general, right? Now you would have, if any of these people came up against, if any of these people get nominated for awards in times gone past, and they went against someone who had a similar exposure level to them, they would win hands down every single time. I mean, it reminds me before when you had, I believe it was like Canyon Player of the Year or something like that. You
Mm-hmm.
had Riolu, like say, I think it would have been like Meeb, Cloud, and Sweeram or something like that. Just picking a few names out of the top of my head. You would have a very, very even spread for that. I think that was one of Meeb's breakout years and was, in my opinion, very deserving of the award. However, you would have Riolu taking it in an absolute bloodbath, an absolute landslide, because he's the significantly more known person out of all of those names who have been put there. You would have, I mean, not in any to complain about it being more deserving or anything like that. But you would have, say, the very first award I was nominated for, which was Cast of the Year in 2017, if I remember correctly. So that was myself, Nelke. That's a name a few years ago. Myself, Nelke, Cousin, I believe is the third one, and then Spam.
Yeah.
Now, in that kind of year, before it was only Spam that was covering these sort of events. However, on that year, a lot of people stepped up to the plate. Cousin was putting in a lot of work. Nelke was putting in a lot of work. I was putting in a lot of work. And Spam was also putting in a lot of work. However, Spam won with something like 75% of the vote. And that wasn't to say that he was 3 times better a streamer than anyone else. It was just simply, the strength and numbers of his influence. It's the nature of how awards go when they're decided by the public. And to kind of deal with your question a little bit there, how you deal with problems like large influencers kind of sweeping these awards. This is why you would, if I was to host an award show, I would have it as a kind of, like in football, you have a writers' player of the year, where you have only people who are severely invested. Say it's journalists or whoever. I don't even know who does the writers' one of the year, but I know it is people who are more invested in football, for example.
Yeah.
These are the kind of awards I would lend more credence to, rather than say if you were to pick the best footballer of the year, you would have probably Ronaldo winning that every year because he's the most popular player, regardless of whether he was the best or not. That's the nature of open awards. I always think if you're wanting to lend an award proper value, it needs to be decided by a jury of people who all know what they're talking about, and the jury decides who gets the award, what place they come in, not a mass amount of awards. But I feel that's almost a little bit of a controversial opinion, but I don't know if that's necessarily because people think it's wrong or people just like having their own opinion in these sort of awards.
Yeah, I mean that's probably how things are dealt with in football. That you have like experts analyzing stuff, and it's easier to measure those kind of things. You can say, okay, Lewandowski has scored this amount of goals in this games, but how you want to measure it in Trackmania? You cannot measure. Yeah, okay, this caster is better than that, or this map is better than that. I think that's the most subjective thing playing a map. So you need to have some sort of expert. You need to have values, and those values need to be like negotiated between each other. With value is more important than the other. Is it quality over quantity, or is it like repetition of blocks, or something like that? I don't know. It's like it's so hard to really get that one done, and having maybe a smaller or maybe the general voting has a smaller impact on the actual outcome could be the solution here. But only let's take 20% from the total vote. A public vote will go into that. I don't know. It's hard to make that possible because everyone has a different opinion and I think this is a little bit the spirit about that. But yeah, of course, in some categories, you just have some popular person coming into that and just winning it all. This could definitely happen. I mean, it's really hard to measure that, and you cannot consider everything. And this is the hard part. If someone finds a solution for that, I think you can make a business out of that. But you need to. I think the finding the balance between the jury votes and then maybe let the crowd decide, or maybe tell them, okay, before you vote, make a disclaimer. Before you vote, you need to make up a mind. That you say, okay, before you vote, you have to play this map. Before you vote, you have to know what the nominee and community person has done. Before you vote, you need to know what the streamer has casted and how he's casting. That you get kind of eligible to vote. That you spend like 20 minutes for a category to see, okay, this one has done this person has done this, or this map is about that. So this could be a solution for this problem, but also then they're like, oh, okay, then it's, I don't know, someone here, let's take Spam. Okay, it's Spam. I like Spam. He's caster of the year, It's not solving that problem. It's hard to really get that one done.
Yeah. I suppose, it's I suppose a bit of a blessing and a curse when it comes to an award show. It is something that a lot of people engage in, which is very nice to see. It is a little bit of an acclaim for people who do deserve it. But also I mean, ideally, you would want to have, awards which do have some proper worth to them, in a sense where if you've been given that award that you deserve it. That you have properly earned that reward. I mean, if Zerator swung by and somehow get nominated for Streamer of the Year or something like that, and then he shares one of these Twitter posts, then he would win Streamer of the Year, even though he would only do like 1 month worth of streaming in Trackmania. That's the unfortunate nature of things like this. I mean, if Riolu gets nominated for an award that would even be completely irrelevant, all it would take is him to share this and all go and vote for me there, guys. And there you go. He's probably got enough votes to win fucking whatever he wants. Movie Maker of the Year if he wanted, But, I mean, not to give, outward examples, because I feel I'm being a little bit too negative about it. Instead, what I would kind of suggest is a kind of way forward for this. Ideally, what you would want is you would want an award show where you would have an educated jury who would be able to tell you first, second, third, and fourth. And that would be your award show. You would be able to then present who wins the award, who's been the runner-ups, and be able to present some honourable mentions or something like that. But you can want that all you like. The people are out there, the people who would be able to give you this educated opinion, but that doesn't mean they're going to help. That doesn't mean they're going to give up their time to give you their opinion. I might sit here and rant about Caster of the Year, and I can complain, I wasn't part of the Caster of the Year jury. Don't get me wrong, I'm part of the staff, so I saw everything anyway and butted in when I felt like I could give my 2 bits, because that's just the kind of person I am. But, I mean, other people out there, as far as I know, let me actually just check this. There was no casters involved in the Caster of the Year. Now, of course, that's important to a point where you don't have any self-bias, but also these are the kind of people who know most about this kind of award. For Streamer of the Year, you didn't really have any streamers involved in that, apart from yourself, Turbo.
Nice spoil.
Oh well, for the part of the jury, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, like I suppose spoiling the jury. At least they know. So guys, if you're not happy with Streamer of the Year, go and talk to this guy, and mess up his DMs. I'm just joking. But yeah, like my point is that you aren't having as much specialized people as you could have. The right people.
Everyone can see the jury, right? Really?
I don't know.
Oh my god. Yeah, cool.
Oh well, yeah. Well, there you go then. You're defenseless now. But yeah, but what I mean by this is, like, for each of these categories, you don't have people who could lend, a really well practiced eye. You do have for some of them, like Skin, Movie Maker, the niche categories like Mania Planet Player of the Year is very well represented, in my opinion. But yeah, that's the kind of problem I have, is that my ideal world doesn't have enough willing people to partake. That's the issue I have. It's not an impossible compromise. I mean, for the 2018 awards, I realised that I would be compromising the awards by inserting myself into the Caster of the Year jury, where I would have been a clear favourite to be nominated. So I excluded myself from being nominated. That's the only reason why I wasn't nominated in the 2018
Oof.
Caster of the Year.
Weird flex, but okay.
Yeah, weird flex, but okay. But I just simply said to them, look, I don't want to be part of this year's nominees, because I don't feel that if I'm going to be helping out, that I'm going to be it's going to look good.
Yeah.
So I understand that to that extent. There's kind of two sides to play, and that in a way, I feel really bad for kind of, I feel like that was very big headed of me, but yeah, and I know I need some things to gloat about now, guys. I mean, my awards days might be numbered. Let's just say that. But anyway, talk me through what your kind of ideal award show would, so to speak. How would your ideal system be? If there's going to be Turbo's award shows tomorrow, tell me how you would go about it. What kind of awards you would have, and what kind of categories you deal with. Would you do it all on your own, kind of the way Eric's doing? How would you like to do it?
I would actually have a way different approach than anyone right now, because I would say, okay,
Hipster.
I would declare the persons for 2021 now, and they will be like, okay, you are covering this and this and this, if you want to, of course. And then they just note down. They note down throughout the whole year. They note down, okay, Turbo has covered this event, or this map has been built and has gotten a lot of awards. You know that this will stack up, and you will make a sheet, and you have everything in there so that you can consider everything, Because what happened yesterday, you don't know about that. But it is like a long-term work then, that you add up everything, like have a little bit of an archive of the year, and then you
That's
measure
another award, Archive of the Year.
yeah, but you get the point, that you can consider everything. I think this will be a nice idea, but it's of course hard to realize it, to have people, committing to that, and also to like have the right people that are reliable enough to make that happen. Because of course, one or two people would definitely make that, but then one thing won't be considered, which could be important, and the whole award show is for nothing, because then it gets a wrong way. What I would also do is to maybe have someone ask the casters. Maybe let's just ask the casters. Maybe I could name someone who's in my chat who knows a lot about me. That we have a little bit of a biased opinion there, but then have all those biased opinion coming together, that they are discussing about the casters, but without the casters, that they have their own discussion, and maybe they can meet in the middle, and they have arguments for and against this certain person, why this one is better and worse. I think those are like my ideas that popped up into my mind. But when I would do an award show tomorrow, and I had to prepare everything now, of course, I would scrub off the categories, of course. I would only do the categories I'm eligible of the rating. And for the other ones, I would ask other people that they can maybe put in their awards. Let's say, I could most likely get nominated for Caster of the Year tomorrow. I couldn't make that award myself. As you said, this one was occurring to you in 2018. But if I would do this award, I would also not nominate myself like you did in 2018. So I would also do that. So, maybe you have some of those ideas had in your mind as well. Maybe, what would you, perfect award show, or Paul's award show, or TM Scotsman's award show look like tomorrow?
The Scotty Too Hotty Award. But yeah, I mean, I would do much the kind of same as the way Eric's doing it. Instead of saying that these are going to be the Trackmania awards, just simply say, look, this is who I think is the best
Mm.
in this, the best in that. Because like the kind of the credit I give to Eric and how he's doing his, I am the kind of person that when it comes to these awards, I will sit and do the research for however many juries have been put down for. Because like you've said yourself, I mean, we're the kind of people who we'll feel bad if we don't do it. We'll feel like if we don't do it, no one else will do it, kind of thing.
Yes.
So, I would do the work for the award shows that which I would be part of in that kind of sense. But for me, I would have my award shows would be very much different in the way I would approach them. So here's the thing, right? See, if I was given an award show, I would be taking things from quite a different light. Now, one of the awards with the most potential, I always thought, was something like Most Improved Player of the Year. Uh, any awards that you could look at where effort really is very much apparent. So that's things like Streamer of the Year, Caster of the Year, Most Improved Player of the Year, as that takes into account, their overall effort throughout this year. I would, I can imagine I would have significantly different nominees from what everyone else has. Now, the reason I think that is we think back to what the Most Improved Player of the Year was gone past, for example. Danik V got nominated for that 2 years in a row. Now, that kind of contradicts itself. I mean, being the Most Improved Player of the Year two years in a row.
Then he should be the
but,
best, right?
Yeah, I suppose that's one way to look at it. But also, Caster of the Year, Streamer of the Year. I think Streamer of the Year, especially this year, is going to be very important. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything, but I think most people are confident that the Streamer of the Year vote is going to go to a very select few people. We're talking people like Virtual, Realu, Spam, and then it kind of convolutes itself a little bit. I don't know, Nick, Mudda. Like, these are the first names. I don't know if I mentioned Virtual there, but I certainly meant to at the very least if I didn't. Then you're also having some French streamers like Ceramex, Yannex, and so on. But the problem is here, where do the people who are putting in, like you had, I don't know who it was, like Pizzle or
Yeah.
something like that. You have Pizzle who's putting in more hours than any of them, month after month after month after month. You have some other streamers out there.
Hello, Mark.
Hello, Mark, and was there one called Neon as well?
Mm.
I'm not familiar with them as they don't have quite a large yet. But these are people who are putting in a very, very significant amount of effort to stream a lot, stream interesting content. And, example, Pizzle's hosting his own cup and everything like that. Playing a lot of kind of, providing kind of diverse content in a sense. But they don't get any light shined upon them because they aren't who you would properly consider a typical streamer of the year, because you're normally only thinking big names for that.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm the kind of person who, when I'm looking at streamer of the year, the very first thing I'm going to be looking at is who's put in the most hours. That's what I'm going to be looking at. I'll take who's done the most hours. What have they done with those hours? I mean, if it's because you have some streamers, I kind of separate them into two different groups. You have people who are trend setters and you have people who are trend followers. You have the kind of people who are making their own content, who are paving their own way. Yannick's making his own cups, Pizzle making his own cups, Virtual doing all these different kind of speed runs, doing Trackmania blind, making all these different challenges up and things like that. Then you have other streamers who'll just play what everyone else is playing, who'll just do what everyone else is doing, who'll just follow the flow. They'll follow what everyone else is doing. And I would personally lend more credence to the people who are trying to innovate, or even if they're not trying to innovate, who are trying to bring something not only to them in terms of a viewer experience, but are doing things like tournaments, they're doing things like challenges, are hosting things, like the mapping tournaments that Virtual is doing. You look years gone past, you look at the weekly races that Spam would organise and so on. So I can imagine that my award shows would look very different,
Yeah.
When I'm talking about most improved player of the year, I'm talking about some guy who maybe started fucking Division 5 and is now in a Division 1 team. You look at some players like Otak, who in the past few years have appeared out of obscurity and are now known as one of the best tech players. You have people who are rightfully gone from the kind of zero to hero journey, the likes of Grenadi, who is getting recognised as he's become a little bit more of a household name now, so to speak. But you have a lot of people who fly under the radar, and in my award show, I would definitely not let that happen.
I think it's a really in-depth view that you have there. Let's take just streamer of the year, because I think for that you really need a lot of understanding and knowledge about what happens in streaming. Of course, I'm around on Twitch a lot. I mean, I kind of, yeah, I brought Hello Mark a little bit of views by just hosting him after I stopped streaming, and we created a lot of hype in his chat. He got a tier 4, tier 5 hype train. It was so cool to see, And just giving that back to the people from the community is super cool. And this just shows how well, or like how accepted those people are. And also Pizzle, like putting in the effort, organizing the Kaki event where he builds all the Kaki maps and just playing them throughout the December, and also his Cannonball run, doing those kind of stuff. He's definitely a very good content creator, also for NA. What NA streamer do we also have? Of course, we have Carl Jr., but this is kind of where it stops already. And yeah, but how you wanna... Do you have this in-depth view for every sort of subcategory? Because this will definitely be super hard, because I couldn't name you every streamer who has streamed in Trackmania. Of course, I see... When I looked into my right, I see S streaming right now. I see Jeffso streaming. But when I click on Trackmania, I see way more streamers that are streaming that I didn't consider at all. Then there, just to name here, we have Mika, Sparkling Water, who I also didn't follow. I just got wind with that he streamed. Carl is streaming. You can infinitely do that, and it's hard to really consider who is cool. And this will be also super subjective as well. What event you like more, and yeah, it's hard to do this kind of award show. So again, that's a little bit the barrier, or the mark of the award show, that you cannot consider everything, and someone will feel left aside.
Yeah, I suppose in those kind of situations, here's my kind of train of thought. Whenever I've been involved in some sort of award show, I will use whatever metrics I can to get as objective an answer as I can. Now, what I would do if I was creating my own award, so say for Streamer of the Year, first thing I'd be looking at is how many hours they've streamed throughout the year. Luckily, you have people like Eric who are normally posting, amount of hours streamed each month and things like that. There is metrics out there, or sorry, what do you call them? There is resources out there where you can see things like that. If I'm wanting to find out who's caster of the year, I'll look up every sort of tournament that I can find that's happened this year, and I'll look up who's casted them. I want to see the numbers, who's done what. Then, once I've got the objective things out the way, like this was something that happened before. When I was on the jury for fastest player, now I decided who was fastest player of the year. This was the very first one I was involved in. And I remember people were so unhappy that Kronos got the nomination spot in place of Massa, because Massa has a reputation for being very fast. People associate him with being very fast. Yet, when I remember I sat down there and chronicled every single competition world record that had happened that year in tech, because it was a tech-based award. And Kronos had by far the most. Like, it wasn't even close. By far the most out of any of the nominees. Yet people were saying that Massa, who had nowhere close to any of the other nominees, should have been there instead of Kronos. But that's again people who are subjectively thinking that Massa is faster than Kronos, which is debatable. He might be, he might not be. However, when I sit there and I think, right, I'm just going to sit here and look who's got the fastest times throughout this year. And then you see one person wins by a landslide, It's the same if I was to go through Streamer of the Year and I saw one streamer had double the amount of hours streamed to his next competitor. I would then think, hold on, this person deserves my, my attention, so to speak.
Yeah.
But then again, you could just have it like I remember Matt went through a phase recently where he just streamed AO1 on a time cheat or something like that, so he could break it. He could break the game or something. So realistically, his stream was up for like 20 hours at a time, but he never actually done it. So you would obviously then look into the streams. Look up a few VODs, catch a stream every now and then, see if it is interesting content, see if they are then providing something which you can then subjectively judge. Am I enjoying this? Would I see this as being enjoyable?
Ah, yeah, I see.
Can it taking? Because here's the thing, right? You can look at it subjectively. Am I enjoying this or not? But this is something I've realised for a long time in mapping, specifically in Trackmania. It's very important to be able to separate a map that you enjoy and that you don't enjoy from what's actually a good or bad map. Just because you enjoy it doesn't mean it's a good map. Just because you hate it doesn't mean it's a bad map. Just because you're enjoying this streamer doesn't mean they're a particularly good streamer. It might be that their personality links up very well with yours. That their content seems to be something that you're very much interested in. So I think it's as long as you've got the kind of rational mindset to be able to separate those things, to be able to, to subtract the points which are going to bring a lot more bias, then I think it's possible to do. That's why I'd be interested in hosting my own award show one day. But yeah, I mean, I think it's possible. I think it's possible to solve these kind of problems, but you need the people there to do it. That's the problem. You need the people there to be able to do what I'm saying, and also you need the systems to support it. I mean, you can have the people who will bring up the most objective 4 nominees for a category, but it doesn't matter if the people are going to be the one who votes on it, and then it's just going to be this, the most popular person winning anyway. So you need the system, you need the right people, and then you can have awards which are truly worth receiving. Awards that you can fucking show off to people. Like you don't want an award where someone's going to say, "Oh, you just won because of this." It doesn't matter what the because of. If it's they're more popular, if it's I don't know, the fucking jury liked them more, so they got in the nominee or something like that. You don't want to have any buts when you're getting an award. You don't want to have anyone being able to take that award away from you, to devalue the award you're getting, which I feel that it does kind of leave it a little bit open to in today's award ceremonies, which kind of puts me off them a little bit, if I'm honest.
Yeah, it's a very scientific approach there, and I can also get a lot of things because I'm studying to become a teacher, to have this approach to be as objective and unbiased as possible, with having someone being, let's say he's from the South and you think he's stealing something, just being, not having any sort of just not being biased. And it's hard to do that, to leave you kind of out and get yourself into the objective view at first, of course, and then kind of narrow it down to a more subjective view, and then, okay, what does it mean that I like this person? Why do I like them? To really reflect why you think that this person should be nominated. Is this objective? Is this subjective? And then maybe find a 50-50 balance of that. It's a very good approach, but the question is, who is putting in this effort? Thinking, I mean, just to having this kind of mindset that you have, I think I definitely agree with that, but it would take me a lot of time to actually come up with this conclusion that you are coming up with here. So it's definitely not easy. I just have to say that. So a very, very cool attitude that you have there, and definitely a part that people from the jury should consider, because of course I'm in the jury and you would not agree or partly agree with my kind of picks. I mean, for some things I have more or less an opinion, but it's hard when there's only one or two persons saying something to that and you cannot discuss. And then people are like, okay, I agree with you, but I wanted to discuss when I made my picks into that. Maybe people have seen more or less stuff from this or that streamer, because you guys know that I'm streamer in that jury. And of course, oh, damn it, I just misclicked. Hopefully you didn't see anything from there. Actually, okay. Damn it, man. Okay, I'm sorry, guys. I'm not sure what was that, but it wasn't too important. I just clicked on the Discord there, but yeah, it's a mess today. But what did I want to say? Now I lost track of this. But yeah, it's really hard to get people involved into that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's, do you know, it's something that I remember talking a lot about with Eric within the past, shall we say, year or two, and I think it's something which really been poignant so far this year. Trackmania has so many uh, great ideas, so many great projects. So let's talk about things like, I don't, just give an example. Sorry, things like matchmaking when that came about. Another thing that springs to my head would be uh, the TM News, also the award shows. At the TM News actual news site, just to clarify, the award show, projects like this, and also just general journalism and Trackmania. Even these are all wonderful prospects, and these are all things that would be of great benefit to Trackmania. You know, things like, I don't know, even the open map pool which I'm part of. These are things that, to an extent, either some will benefit it more, some will benefit it less. These are all things that will benefit the Trackmania community in some form, right? But
Yeah.
not always do we have the community to support it. We don't have that many people out there who are willing to write articles for TM News to be engaging every day, for it to be like a HLTV where you'll load it up and it'll be like 3 different articles each day. We don't have that level of community that's able to support something like that. If you're having an award show, you don't have the level of community where it has educated, or shall we say, specialized jury members for every category who are willing to take the steps that I or you made. For the competitive open map pool before, we didn't have that many people submitting maps to it. So despite it being, what people thought was a good project, it ended up falling flat in its face for things that were out with our control. But more another one, you look at matchmaking. Matchmaking is something that everyone wanted and still wants. But when they got it, we didn't have a big enough community to support it because of some of the issues that then arose. You're having great people pairing up against, amateur people and so on and so
Yeah.
forth. But I think that's one of the problems we have in Trackmania. There's so many things we want, but we don't have enough people willing to work towards the same goals at the moment. We don't have the kind of community to take on a lot of big scale projects. Whether or not we had it or whether or not we're going to get it isn't questions I don't think I can really answer at the moment. But it's a case where I think the scale we're at the moment is good because we are working on big projects. We're getting things ready. It's just we need the people there to help. That's the kind of way I look at it. The award show would be better if you had more specialized people here. Trackmania News would be more interesting if you had more people helping out. The tournament scene would be more interesting if there's more people creating tournaments. I mean, the list goes on. It's just the nature of our scene, I guess, and it's one of the unfortunate consequences of Trackmania being a relatively limited scene as of the moment. But I don't think it's necessarily all doom and gloom. Like I said, I feel grateful to a sense that we do have the people who are invested in running things like Trackmania Awards, with the Trackmania News team behind the various projects. Not to any way that I've spent, the past hour, complaining about some of this stuff. Do I think in any form that this is a bad idea? I think it is very important to give recognition to people, even if it may not be that I think they're not the people who should be getting these awards. That doesn't matter. It matters that someone gets recognition for efforts they put in. They wouldn't get nominated if they didn't have some effort that they put in towards these categories. So I still think it's a very important project, and it's still something I support. However, I think it's always important in the roles that I play to make sure that everyone knows where the holes are that they can be poked in something like this. If I poke holes in it and say this is wrong, this is wrong, and this is wrong, then at least you know what holes to fill. I mean, you never know. It's why you never want yes men around you. You want people to tell you what the problems are in any sort of projects you're involved at, and you don't want people telling you something's perfect when it might not be, of course. But I think the award ceremony, as I said, despite me spending the last hour shitting on it or complaining about it, I think it is something that's very important to the scene. I think you could agree with me there.
Yeah, of course, I agree with you. And yeah, I mean, I've already mentioned this point before forgetting it. When I posted in my nominees for a category, and then people were like, "Yeah, I agree with you." Dot. And I was like, "For what am I doing this year? Should we discuss? Should we consider other things, or should I do all of that?" It felt like that I was responsible for doing that. But what you've mentioned there is actually part of a much bigger, not problem, but a much bigger effect that is, of course, a very, very deep and known problem that the Trackmania community is not as big as Counter-Strike. But of course, it has different issues and stuff like that. And also, it's hard to really get, hard to really comprehend that because it's a very, very huge problem. Not a problem, but a cause. Let's say a cause. I think problem is a negative word right for that, but the cause why it is like that. And I think the capacity of our community is, we have one person who is responsible for the news, Eric, and let's just take him away. Let's just think that Eric is gone and not making news anymore. I think that this would be a very important factor that would miss in Trackmania. Or let's just take all the casters gone for a moment. Maybe then other people would go and cast. But I mean, it's always easy to point the finger to someone and say, okay, you're wrong. You know, it's easy to say that. You need to like find a sort of solution and also like to give arguments for that. And this is like, it's crazy. So I don't know, man, how you can really solve this solution. You just need a more experienced jury, not people who are of course getting or being the nominees, but people who are able to commit to that topic and maybe having that approach. Okay, we will most likely have Trackmania Awards 2021, and then everyone could post in what comes to their mind, and no one will like put in the subjective work. Let's just say streamer of the year. Just post in, this guy streamed for 10 hours today. You know, just to have a sort of understanding why he did that. Or also the person who streamed for this amount can post it in there. You know, that they can get a little bit of a timeline. But then again, the problem is, will a person like Virtual, Riolu, Spam, will they post it in there as well? Are people aware of that? You know, but maybe get recognition of the smaller people as well who are not that known. That is probably the most important fact that we are missing at the moment. And of course, we cannot consider everything. It is impossible to do that. Of course, when you are a little bit left aside and only 1, 2, 3 people are working on those categories, and you have 4 or 5 categories, and then some people are in 10 categories. I don't know how they want to do that. It's too much, you know, getting 10 categories. So you really need to nail it down to like 2, 3 categories, and then really commit to them and think about them with people together and work out a concept, because it's easier to do with other people's that are as committed as you are than you do it alone, you know?
Yeah, for sure.
That's my conclusion.
Yeah, I think having more interested people involved is always going to make the situation a lot easier. But I think Eric's kind of given us a good suggestion there to kind of round off our awards talk today, and it's giving our kind of prediction or bets as to who's going to win some of the awards. Now, of course, I know the nominees for
Me too.
the Trackmania Awards, so it's not going to be fair if we just sit here and go through all of the awards. So what I suggest, you pick one award, one that either you do not know all the nominees for, so say one that maybe Eric's thought of that you haven't. I'll pick one, and Eric has picked Pro Player of the Year as to who we think would be eligible, who we think could possibly be taking the awards for this. Horrendously uncomfortably. So, I'll start with Pro Player of the Year while you think of your award of which you would like to discuss. So, Pro Player of the Year has had a lot of discussion about it, not necessarily about who should be nominated, but more who should be winning. I would say your two main people is I think you should only really talk about who's winning this in a sense. Otherwise, we'll be here for years. But I think the Pro Player of the Year vote is going to end up going between Carl Jr. and Gwen. It's a question of, for me, it's a question of quality over quantity. Gwen has performed exceedingly well at a very large number of events, but when it has counted most, Carl has outperformed him. So for me, I would say personally that Gwen does deserve the award more because I mean he did beat Carl Jr. at Zerator Cup, which is also one of the very high stakes tournaments. And in general, he has been on fire for every tournament of which we've been watching, you know, and that's from the start of the year until the very finish. Whereas Carl Jr. has played like 4 tournaments this year, or something like that. Gwen's won more than 3 or 4 tournaments, never mind played in them. So for me personally, I would say Pro Player of the Year should be going home with Gwen, but I mean, who knows? Takes a few Twitter shares, and Carl Jr. might take that with a landslide. I don't know, but yeah, Gwen and Carl Jr. I think you're only 2 real contenders for that. Personally, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Gwen and Carl Jr. is kind of the El Clasico in Trackmania, like Real Madrid versus Barcelona, like in the mid 2010s, where we had those teams being like uncontested in Spain. But there are also other players who I want to consider a bit. Let's just take a player named Aurel, for example, who's a player who participated in so many competitions and is one of the best out there, I would say. So I could see him winning as well, just in terms of quantity, by playing a lot of competitions and also dominating them. So he's a player for me who definitely should go on this list. And maybe, I mean, when you think about the other franchises, about Bren and Papu, they didn't really participate in that many competitions. But then you could also name Riolu, who is like casually dropping WRs every day on Trackmania, on the new Trackmania installment. Cup of the Day, also super consistent in there. So he could have been a nomination as well for tomorrow. We don't know. But I think Aurel is a player that should be considered.
Is there any specific award which you've kind of been thinking about you'd like to lend us some predictions for?
I mean, if I go for match or for streamer or caster, I think those are very, very like hard awards to really distribute.
But also, what about story of the year, maybe?
Yeah, also,
that's one I don't think we've had a jury for.
Yeah, also movie and skin, can't really judge that. Story of the year.
Tell me your story of the year.
Your story of the year. Let me think for a moment. I mean, thinking about story of the year, I think about Granadi, and I think about Mura. Mura's story has a little bit of a bitter taste to it, because he kind of said that he won't come back to the game. But when he was coming back with a very, very healthy attitude, with a very healthy mindset, and also with a lot of commitment. And I think this one has a really good message behind that you see a player who's committing to this. And I mean, he only played FSL, I think, also the, what was the name again? This nations competition, the multi-star thingy. What was the name again?
Forget. I know what you mean.
Let me check. ARC, yes, ARC. Okay, I got it. Okay, ARC. Just playing that, but when he said, and I don't mean it in a bad way, but when he said, "Yo, I want to qualify to the Trackmania Grand League," I was a bit laughing, not in a bad way, because I've seen him 1.5 years ago on RPG, and he was not good on that, you know. But his dedication has shown that everything is possible in Trackmania, and he is the prime example from a casual player, like, of course, casual in terms of the other styles, you know, except full speed, but he really transferred his full speed knowledge into the other styles, came a beast in them as well, and this is unbelievable for me. It's unbelievable to see that Muda has improved so much and is such a fast player. So really, it is not meant in a bad way that I loved about that. I couldn't make up my mind too much, but it is definitely Muda qualifying to the Trackmania Grand League, and then also of course Gwen winning or being second in the Trackmania Grand League Season 2 from qualifying, but this was kind of obvious for me. And also Granadi improving, the unique wheel player, coming from United and just playing for, Stadium for a year. So this is impressive to see that he's also transferring his United skills to that and winning competitions, This is like sick.
For sure. I mean, if I'm to talk about story of the year, I mean, I suppose you kind of take it from a little bit of a different stance than what I would. But what I see as being story of the year is undoubtedly the fact that we've had a new Trackmania this year. That was the one that I would feel have the most impact. However, I think it's a different way of which you look at it, of course, which does merit a lot of the nice stories or the shall we say, I don't really know how to say this because I wouldn't really say necessarily more interesting stories in the fact we've had a new game come out, but yeah. Anyway, I think the fact that we've had a new game come out is one of the most impactful stories of the year, just simply because think of all the discussions we were having before the game came out, all of the discussions we've had since the game came out. I mean, pretty much all of our episodes have been about something that is in the new game, isn't
Yeah.
in the new game, that the new game does, that the new game doesn't, that kind of thing. That's what a lot of the Twitter talk's been about. That's what a lot of these streams have all been about. So I think that's a very important story of the year. But I think that would be the one that would end up winning. But I'm sure there's plenty of others out there that deserve a mention for being a very interesting story to follow this year, like the one of which you were mentioning. But if we think of some other, I'll think of a last one for the year, a last kind of award for the year to try and get to round us off for today. And let me go with one that's a little bit more easy from thing. And most improved player of the year. Now, I know before I says, oh yeah, I'd be looking at who'd been really stepping up their level and things like that. But instead of that, I'm thinking who I think might win the award for most improved of the year. And to be honest, I think there's three names which will be on people's lips mostly for this award, and that would be Grenadi, as you've mentioned. That would be Mudda, as you've mentioned, and that would also be Gwen, as you've mentioned. I think these are the three main contenders for most improved players of the year because they have had the most visible improvements. You have had some people who have been putting in a lot of work on maybe lesser visible tournaments. You're having some names appearing out of nowhere and performing very well at some tournaments and so on. But I think that these people have had the most recognisable growth throughout this year, and I think Gwen would be probably the front runner to win because I mean last year if we're talking 2018 2019 people knew he was good but they just didn't know what kind of level he could hit. He really did show us that in 2020. He really did he really stepped it up. Well, I would say maybe not even stepped up. He really got his platform to show what he was truly capable of this year. He was able to participate really deep into, the, what do you call it again? The Zerator Cup. And he did end up winning the Zerator Cup.
How's it called again?
Yeah, I was for some reason I was thinking From Zero to Hero, but then I remember he didn't play that. But you had the Zerator Cup, which he did finally manage to properly showcase himself on. You have Trackmania Grand League, which he managed to properly showcase himself on. Numerous other tournaments throughout this year where he's been coming up against this opposition, which people were curious, how's he going to perform against X or Y player? And he's performed against them time and time again. So I think Gwen would be the winner of the standout or most improved player of the year.
Yeah, definitely a good point. I mean, this was also a topic that we've had just before Trackmania Grand League has started, or the test step how will Gwen and also Afi perform against those top tier players? And now, I mean, he is well established in there, to just name it like that. He has proven himself to beat players like Bren, Aurel, Pack, all those players in the actual playoff phase. So he's definitely a pick for me. Also, one thing that I want to mention here for moment of, or for what was the category again that we are talking about? Most improved. No, what was that? You said Trackmania was coming out. Moment of the year, right?
That was story of the year.
Story of the year, but also, yeah, okay, story of the year. Okay, I got it confused with. Also, story of the year for me is that all of a sudden a patch for ESWC was coming out, that it was able to be played on Windows 10. Also a huge, like story if you go into this kind of category, because I mean it's like it was the kind of saying goodbye to this game and start a new chapter, that people left this game aside, revisited. So many records have been broken there. So this was also very, very cool to see. But of course, you had a good story as well. Okay, let's go for... Yeah, I mean, you listed one... I would say one more we go into. Maybe the chat decides what category we should pick. I'm just gonna name them again. So we had already... and we have amateur players still. Then we have Mania Planet Player, Team of the Year, Match Event, Caster Streamer, Mapper, Movie Maker, Movie, Skinner, Community Person, Content Creator. So maybe you guys want to suggest a category. Let us wait here a bit, or maybe
that we'll try and not spoil, I guess.
Yeah, people overlooked for Community Person.
Well, we can't really say people who are overlooked for Community Person because we can't tell who were the nominations. So
yeah, it was also community event. Okay, we could go.
That's not one that's really been featured apart from through Event of the Year. So yeah, I suppose that's a nice one to finish off with. Thank you, Trev Bob. So a community event. So I would take that the distinction from being nothing that's been had a direct involvement from Nadil. That's what I would take that from. So that would be Trackmania Grand League out the window. And would you really say they've had an involvement in Zerator Cup? I guess that's a little bit harder to say.
I would actually say a bit yes, because the game was a little bit late around the release of the new game. So it kind of had an influence. So yeah, maybe.
Right, give me a community event of the year then, or I can go first.
No, I'm gonna go first here, and I think it's also something that really has been not considered at all. True Talent Cup, or just the TM Masters event, which hasn't been nominated at all or just mentioned. I mean, we had almost 200 TTCs going on, and it was an event that was like a little bit of a religion for people coming to that event every Thursday, organizing the TMO, the dirt event and stuff like, no wait, TMM, but they have also organized the dirt event if I recall correctly, and also other team competitions. This is really the end of an era as well in this year that we've had. So this is for me my top community event. I was participating in TTCs for for more than 5 years, and that's it's sad to see that it is gone,
Yeah, I feel you. Me personally, community event of the year. I have, for me, there's only really two choices that spring to my head immediately when I think of this award. Two events which evoked such great interest for me in Trackmania, and in a sense of something I was very interested to see and something I was very interested to participate in. One of them was the Trackmania Formula League. I was very, very interested in Trackmania Formula League. Everything from head to toe has been very nice about it. They've had proper league rankings, which were separated with, great coverage on each of the weeks for the events which were held. Lovely maps which were made for it. But I suppose you could always argue for that for different kind of tournaments. But we've had Formula events before. Some of them have made attempts at using kind of real versions of the tracks. Some of them have just, made kind of different style of tracks like this one did. But this one came along with pit timer. This one came along with simulated
Out of
tire
nowhere,
and
yeah.
fuel usage. So simulated tire and fuel usage, and again out of nowhere. And it was a game. It was a tournament in Trackmania which felt like no other. No other Trackmania tournament was simulating fuel usage, or tire usage, or was taking pits into consideration, or was having qualifying and deciding your slot in the grid and all the rest of that kind of stuff. Really, 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 very thorough in how they managed this event, and I cannot wait to see what kind of plans they've got in store for Trackmania Formula League. I think, I suppose you kind of shoehorn it into the tech genre. I think it's really something that breathed quite a lot of life, of interest into some players' games. I'd seen players playing that tournament who really just don't bother with anything else anymore. So definitely Trackmania Formula League is one of my very, very strong picks for that. But I have to go with From Zero to Hero. There is no other
Yeah.
tournament I could possibly pick for that. I mean, it was the last hurrah for the major tech tournament. It was the final, the the final. I don't know how you'd even call it, but yeah, it was the greatest tech
The
tournament I've
pinnacle.
seen. Yeah, it was the very pinnacle.
Yeah.
You had you had it coming under dramatic circumstances, just to add to it, where Gamers Assembly had been cancelled due to coronavirus. We had a retired admin staff come out of retirement just to hold one last event, came under community donations and exceeded, I think, €1,500 just purely from community donations. And also had the most stacked roster we've ever seen in Trackmania Tech competition. Absolutely hands down. It had, I think, 14 out of 16 of the previous Trackmania World Championship contenders, minus, I think, Roa and Omnipots, because was it Roa and Omnipots? No.
Omnipots was playing.
Yeah. Roa and someone else. I can't remember exactly who the last one was. But anyway,
Haki Junior.
uh, no, from 2000, TMWC.
Ah,
I
yeah,
meant.
yeah. Okay, sorry. So yeah.
So yeah, you had everyone of note there. Absolutely everyone of. You did have some names who signed up who didn't show up, like Javi Flyer was interested in
Massa.
playing, but he ended up not playing. Massa ended up not playing. But other than that, you were missing maybe like one or two names from that
True.
which you would have had. You had the all-time best players playing that tournament. You had Carl Jr., you had Pack. You did not have Kappa. That was the other one I was
True.
for.
Yeah.
But you had Tween, you had Spam, you had a lot of the online demons who people had been talking about. These people who weren't able to go to these LAN events, people like Novus, Dexter, Magorian, they were all coming up against all these sort of players. You had so many storylines in the event and things like that. You had the likes of, what's his name? Nevermind going for a crazy lower bracket run and all the rest of that. You had some crazy matches with the likes of Super Carloof, you know, finalizing his return from rust, so to speak, and getting an incredible result in From Zero to Hero. And you had some unbelievable matches to watch.
Yeah.
So that was hands down my favorite tournament.
Yeah, and also my favorite cast this year. I will definitely go with that because just you get this kind of feeling from like just yeah, I get goosebumps by talking about that, and this just shows how I love this game. But just like you're getting hyped for the match because you think, okay, a new story will be written, and just from round 2 or from round 1 or 2 and stuff like that, we had so many like surprises that were happening and so many matches. You could really fill a book with that. It's unbelievable, really.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's something that really did deserve a lot more recognition and the suggestions and such like that. But I think it's one of those ones that happened too early in the year for it to be remembered, so to speak. But maybe we'll see it in some maybe event of the year, moment of the year, performance of the year. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, definitely stay tuned, guys. The awards ceremonies will be happening within the next month, I'm pretty sure. I believe the
Tomorrow.
nominees are released for Trackmania Awards tomorrow. So the results will get finalised over the next month, and then we'll have a presentation and so on. And on the other side of things, I think Eirik is hosting his awards on January the 5th, if I do remember correctly. So definitely stay tuned, guys, both the Trackmania News Discord and Eirik Holgal's the various social links for the different awards ceremonies to be happening. But yeah, I mean, I think that's us had enough of the award ceremonies for this, at least until it happens, or at least until we get the results through, and
Yeah.
then we can, turn the taps on and shit talk about whatever we want.
Yeah, I would say that as well. So thank you all for watching, guys. Hopefully next week we're gonna see ourselves under better circumstances again. Just took the overlay here from the French regionals together with some borders from some sort of podcast that Eric and me planned for the Zerata Cup. But yeah, it worked out. So all good, all good. So you can find this podcast also on YouTube tomorrow, and we're gonna be back next week as well. So thank you all so much for watching. If you have any suggestions, hit us up in the DMs on Twitter or on Discord. You should know where we are available at. And yeah, thank you so much, and goodbye.